Greetings, Legionnaires, and welcome to the Smackdown review with me, Nick the Geek, for Smackdown on the 24th/5th of February 2023. Quite a packed show this week. Quite a lot happened. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good show. No complaints, really. One match that didn't really serve a purpose, but it did at the same time. But we'll get to that in time. So let's just get straight into the show. First of all, we opened on a recap of everything that's happened with Sami Zayn, Elimination Chamber, and Raw. So the story is clearly not over. WWE are at least kind of listening to the fans when it comes to Sami Zayn and allowing this to naturally progress as it should. Okay, lots of notes this week, by the way, people. Lots of notes, like pages and pages of notes. Okay, after this, we went to Michaela Braxton backstage. She was waiting for Jimmy Uso to arrive. Jimmy shows up. She asks Jimmy whether he's heard from Jay. What's going on with Jay? What are the cracks in the bloodline? Jimmy just says, look, he's been trying to get hold of Jay. He's called him. He's texted him. He sent him a voicemail. I've told him to meet me in the ring tonight, and I'm sure he'll show up because he's my brother, and I know he'll be there for me, which I thought was a good opening segment. It was a good way to get people invested in the main event and to keep you sticking around to see what was going to happen in arguably the hottest storyline in years in WWE. Hello. Hello, David. How are you? Yeah, we'll get to that. After this, we got to our first match. Our first match was a bit odd, but made sense at the same time because they've all been feuding with Imperium. It was Imperium, Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci versus Braun Strowman, Ricochet, and Angry Hat himself, Madcap Moss. Now, I'm going to have a bit of a rant. I can't stand Angry Hat. Madcap Moss is terrible. He's an awful wrestler. I don't understand why they're pushing him. All he's got is shoulder blocks. That's all he did in this match, was shoulder blocks and charging shoulders. He's got nothing but the fact that he's reasonably explosive. He doesn't get it. He's got no timing whatsoever. And he's not that skilled. So I do not understand why WWE are pushing this boy. But nonetheless, they're pushing him. Or at least they were. And hopefully by the end of this match, we'll understand why hopefully they're not anymore. So this was a good match. Believe it or not, it was a good six-man tag. It started with Ricochet versus Giovanni Vinci. Nice bit of exchanges. Ricochet doing loads of flips and reversals to get out of everything. Then Vinci took over with his power, made the tag with Kaiser. Kaiser and Vinci worked over Ricochet for a while. We then went to our first break. When we came back to our first break, when we came back from our first break, it had been a good showcase for Gunther, by the way. Like, really good showcase for Gunther, which I like. They're keeping him as the credible threat to everyone on the roster, which he should be. He's the Intercontinental Champion. He's a monster, and he's arguably the most well-rounded wrestler on the roster as far as his ability to do anything with anyone. Drew McIntyre came out onto the entranceway about 5 minutes into the match, which was an interesting choice for a challenger for Gunther, which I'm assuming is what it was about. But in the end, Madcap got the tag, came in, did more shoulder blocks. Braun, by the way, earlier on took over, did some monsterness. Then Imperium took him out on the outside of the ring, took Ricochet out on the outside of the ring. Madcap got the hot tag back in, the tepid tag back in. Gunther had none of it, chopped him down, powerbomb, job done, no more Angry Hat. Comments, what are we saying here, David? Tag by some possibilities, Dream Chambers versus the Raiders, then Gunther, yes. Ricochet and Spongebob versus the Raiders. Madcap goes learn the Indies. yes. The last part I couldn't agree with more. Go to the Indies, learn what you're doing. Go to GCW. Brett Lauderdale know what to do with that boy. But yeah, it sets up. The Vikings came out, attacked Drew. Sheamus came out to make the save, didn't work. They got beat down. Then Braun and Ricochet eventually made the save for Drew and Sheamus. Then they all celebrated in the ring like they won a championship. It was ironic, considering Drew and Sheamus had spent most of the time on the floor. But that's fine, and hopefully this eventually sets up what we all want, which is the triple threat for Gunther, Sheamus, and Drew for the IC title at Mania. That's what I want. As we all know, I'm going to Mania. That's the match I want to see live, if not just Sheamus Gunther 2. Or Sheamus Gunther 3, I think it will be at this point. Moving on. So after the first match, we had a Santos Escobar and... Well, how should we put this? I suppose it was an interview with Santos and Rey, or just a backstage segment with Santos and Rey, where Santos expresses his respect for Rey Mysterio and his thanks for receiving the mask off him last week. Now, I don't speak Spanish, so I have no idea what else they said. But they were interrupted by Dom, or Condom, as I have gone to call him. Dom interrupts, starts talking about what happens in prison again, even though he was only in county jail for 2 weeks, 2 hours, whatever the hell it was. Starts talking about what you do to people in prison. Santos basically says if he doesn't know what respect is, he'll gladly teach him. Turns around, says something to Rey, turns back around, and Rhea makes the save, steps in front of Dom, blows a kiss to Santos, and then Dom and Rhea walk off. That was the end of the segment. It did what it needed to do, which is add more heat to the Dominic Rey Mysterio heat feud, which I'm assuming we're getting the blow off at Mania. You'd think so. They've been building it for over a year. Those kind of builds usually get paid off in a Mania match, so fingers crossed. Here's hoping. After the Santos and what we had another break, and then we came back and it was another Jimmy Uso segment with Bloodline. Jimmy was sat on Solo Sikoa. Paul Heyman was in the background. Paul Heyman eventually, Jimmy was like, I'm sure he'll be there. He's my brother. I know he'll be there. Just like he was for me in the tag match the other week. He'll be there for me tonight. Solo's like, I don't know, man. And then Heyman comes over and goes, I got an idea. Why don't me and Solo stay in the back? And you can go and handle Jay face to face, man to man, personally. Jimmy says, yeah, it's a good idea. End of the segment. I thought this was good. This is more set up for the main event yet again, keeping you invested in what's going to happen later on in the show, so you've got reason to stay tuned in. That's good booking. Jimmy's emotion tonight was exceptional. His facials, his body language, everything he did showed that he's distraught, that he's torn, that he wants to be there for his brother, but he needs to be there for the tribal chief. He needs to be there for the bloodline, and he's not sure which way he's going to go, but he needs Jay to tell him the truth. I thought this was very good. As I said, it keeps you hooked for later on in the show. Trios match was offset by Brock versus Omos match last night. Yes, it will, but it's happening, unfortunately, which is weird. I didn't think Brock would want to work with Omos, but throw enough money at the beast and he'll just about do anything. Okay, after this, we went to next page of notes. Okay, we went to my favorite moment of SmackDown, the LA Knight moment of SmackDown. Yeah. LA Knight came out, cut a promo, starts talking about WrestleMania. You can't have an LA WrestleMania without LA Knight. And I'm in perfect agreement with this. You can't have an LA WrestleMania without LA Knight. The man is gold. The man needs to be pushed to the moon. He needs to be given a microphone every single week. He is diamond. He's in his 40s, so they need to push him now, but they need to do something with LA Knight. And by the looks of it, they're going to be. Well, I thought they were going to be. Then he lost. So he's in the ring. He's cutting a promo about how he's going to give everyone an LA Knight moment, not a WrestleMania moment, because LA Knight provides the moments because he is the game changer. He is the game. He provides moments. Then he was interrupted by the New Day. Called them the Nerd Day, which is kind of funny because I'm a nerd, so I like that kind of thing. New Day responded by saying, well, being nerds made us a lot of money, which was cool. But this eventually turns into a good back and forth on the mic. LA Knight's brilliant. New Day really good on the microphone. And this eventually gets to Kofi saying, look, but what I'm not willing to wait for is beating your ass. So I challenge you to a match. Adam Pearce, get a referee out here, make this official. And we got Kofi Kingston versus LA Knight on SmackDown. I was fine with this. Like Kofi, love LA Knight. Really good match. I don't care what anybody says. I know a lot of people don't like LA Knight's methodical style, but LA Knight is methodical without being slow. That's hard to do. He calls himself a perpetual motion machine, and it's quite accurate. He doesn't tend to stop much when he's in the ring. There's no wasted motion in his wrestling. He gets where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there. His timing is second to none with some of the people on that roster, but he's got the experience behind him for his timing. His mic work is exceptional. But anyway, it's enough about that. Back to the match. This match was great. I've got quite a few notes on this match, and I will try and get through them all as quickly. So if I keep looking down, I apologize. I have memory like a sieve. Okay. So this went to a break as soon as the match started, which annoyed me slightly. And when it came back, it found out that Kofi had been in control for most of it, which pleased me because usually that means the other guy is going to win. However, that was not the case. They went back and forth. Kofi dominated for a while, then LII took over with a nice high back elbow. Lots of smooth offense. He hit a backdrop rock bottom, a lot of knees, a lot of other stuff that came in. Kofi gave the comeback, high crossbody off the top rope, comes in. What else happened? Yes, also, I'm going to make tell something at the end of this match because Kofi won. Basically, Kofi hits the Trouble in Paradise after Xavier Woods distracted. LA Knight did this fantastic athletic leap up onto the top rope. Xavier Woods jumped over the ring steps and blew his trombone in LA Knight's face, which distracted him enough to fall down onto the rope. So for Kofi to shove him and fall down and get crotched. Then when you turn around, bang, Trouble in Paradise. Kofi pins him. Really nicely landed into the pin of Trouble in Paradise, which I don't think was deliberate, but worked really well. Kofi wins 1, 2, 3. Unfortunately, my boy LA Knight does not get a victory on SmackDown today. However, I noticed something while during this match, and it's a comparison I've never made before, but I'm going to make it now, and I mean it in the most complimentary way possible to the man. Jeff Jarrett is the most comparable person I can think of to LA Knight. In the way he works in the ring, the way he works on the microphone, the fact that if he wants to, he can be truly contemptible, but at the same time, he's such a good talker that people tend to listen. I can't state enough how much of a big fan I am of Jeff Jarrett. I have been for years, and how much of a big fan I am of LA Knight. I think they are very similar workers, and I mean that in the most complimentary way. And I just thought that needed highlighting because everyone gets compared to everybody else, but not a lot of people get compared accurately. And I think this is an accurate comparison. LA Knight is very similar to Jeff Jarrett in the most complimentary way possible. But anyway, moving on back to the show. After LA Knight, what do we have? We had our... also, I'd like to point out that the match between Kofi and LA Knight was the most earnest babyface versus heel formula I've seen in WWE for quite some time. You knew who was supposed to be the bad guy. You knew who was supposed to be the good guy. And they both filled their roles perfectly. There was no, he's a bit in the grey area. No, it was good guy, bad guy, go. I like that, especially when it's done earnestly as it was tonight and in a fantastic match. All right, we then went to our progressive match flow, which was all about Rhea and Charlotte Flair. There you go. Nothing needs to be said about that. Then we get a face-to-face next. It's fine. So then we had an Elimination Chamber recap, which makes sense. It's their biggest selling Elimination Chamber of all time, which also makes sense considering the storyline with Sami Zayn, it being in Montreal, everything else that occurred. Basically, after this, we went to our Charlotte Rhea face-to-face, which wasn't really a Charlotte Rhea face-to-face. It was a Charlotte Condom face-to-face. Charlotte came out, started cutting a promo, tells Rhea to get her ass out of here. Rhea doesn't come. Charlotte's like, oh, you having second thoughts? And then all of a sudden, Don comes out. And Don starts defending Rhea, and then in his weird little way, starts comparing himself to Charlotte, saying they're very similar. You know, they're both generational talents. They both got fathers they're compared to. They both surpassed their fathers, blah, blah, blah. And then he went around about how bad a father Rhea is. And then Charlotte basically turned around and said, well, I love my dad, unlike you. And it's his birthday tomorrow, so happy birthday, Ric Flair. Just early, but happy birthday, Ric Flair. It's his birthday today, because it's the 25th over here already. So happy birthday, Ric Flair. Hope everything's well on your 74th birthday, sir. Charlotte basically went to beat the crap, was going to beat the crap out of Dom. Dom started backing off. Then Rhea's music hit. Rhea came down to the ring. She got in Charlotte's face. Dom pulled her away. Charlotte raised the title belt. Rhea got back in the ring, got back in Charlotte's face, said, you're not going to be holding that for much longer, bitch. And then she went away, and that was it. I kind of like this, and I kind of don't. One, it gets more heat for Dom, which is good, considering the angle they went into later on in the night. And two, it keeps Rhea and Charlotte away from each other. Too many times in WWE do they have a chat, or in wrestling in general, do they have a world title contender coming up and then they wrestle each other? New Japan are very guilty of this, but they do it in 8-man tags, so it's a bit more forgivable, where the contender and the champion will cross paths multiple times on the way to the belt. That's bad booking, because it takes all the surprise and all the urgency out of anything that happens in the match, because they've already run it back 10 to 15 times. And I'm glad to see WWE keeping Rhea and Charlotte away from each other, because they don't run the risk of this becoming stale before it gets started, considering the last time they met was at WrestleMania during the pandemic, when Rhea won her Vegeta-esque Dragon Ball Z gear, and Charlotte won, which was stupid at the time, but I got why they did it. Rhea wasn't quite ready for the main event. She more than is now, and I'm more than hoping to see her win the title live while I'm there this year. Okay, after this, we went to the next page of notes. We had a 6th break, then we had our 3rd match, which was Shayna Baszler versus Natalya. Now, when I said earlier that there was a match that didn't really serve the purpose, but did serve the purpose, it was this match. Because this match was over in short order. My kettle was boiling when this match started. It finished boiling after this match finished. That's how short this match was. Shayna won in short order with an armbar, tapped Natty out. Tegan Knox was in Natty's corner. The only reason they did it was to set up a tag match between Shayna and Ronda, who they are heating up for a tag match at WrestleMania, I hope, for a tag title shot at WrestleMania, possibly against Becky and Lita, if Becky and Lita win on Monday at Raw, which would be good. That'd be a marquee match. Ronda Rousey and Lita in the same match. Becky Lynch in the same match. Shayna Baszler in the same match. That right there is a marquee match for WrestleMania. That's for legitimate stars, for people that people will want to see, and I'm happy about this. But Shayna won in short order. Natty didn't really get a lot of offense in. She had an explosive start where she hit Shayna like 3 times. Then Shayna flipped a switch, started taking over her arm, hit a leaping arm breaker, hit the stomp, hit everything else she could just to weaken down Natty's arm within less than 5 minutes. Then she tapped her out. This, for me, didn't really serve the purpose except to set up the tag match next week, and it helped heat Shayna back up. Shayna Baszler, when she first came up from NXT, when she first came up from NXT, was an absolute killer. She was a murderer who just destroyed the roster. Look what she did in Elimination Chamber the other year. And since then, she has been chronically mishandled since her loss to Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. Chronically. Oh, there we go. Knight versus Cruz next week. Losing tonight after the match with Bray. I personally wouldn't have done. No, neither would I. Could this be leading to a tag team returning Grimes? Oh, well, now that's a good point because Cameron Grimes is apparently due. If you don't know people, Cameron Grimes is due for a main roster call up. And apparently the only reason he's not on the roster already is because creative have nothing for him. There is no storyline for Cameron going forward. So putting him in a team with Knight, even if it was an odd couple tag team like it previously was, I think would be quite a good idea. But at the same time, I want LA Knight as a singles champion in WWE. But at the same time, titles are there to make stars. Don't need them, don't use them. And LA Knight's already a star. What else we got here? Yeah, promo was helping pro. Just play a second. Yes. Yeah, they did. Yeah, unfortunately they did. It was all there to heat Dom up. Yes, I'd like to see Andrade back in the Fed to pound Dominic into the dust. That would be highly entertaining. And for a mixed tag match with Charlotte and Andrade versus Rhea and Dom, that'd be fine as long as Andrade pounded Dom's face in. Ronda and Tegan Knox, you're done, skills. You'll be tasting the rainbow next week. Is this stuff for 5-year-olds? I don't think they're right, Ronda. I just don't think Ronda can cut a promo, David. And I've got nothing against Ronda Rousey. I think she's a big draw for the company. I just don't think she can cut a promo to save her life. And I thought the skills reference made me laugh, but that was about all. All that because she got multicolored hair. Like, very odd. She destroyed the NXT roster, the main roster structure. Yeah. That's kind of what happens. Grimes at dark match, Smackdown tonight. Oh, that's good. Hopefully that means he will be having time quite soon because I did not know that. Thank you, David. All right. After the very quick Natty Shayna match, back to the show. We went for a 7th break of the night. A 7th break of the night, by the way. They were rushing through quite quick tonight. And then a Firefly Funhouse. And I simply have written down here, really odd segment. This was strange. Like, Bray's always strange. But this was a really strange way of heating up his match with Lashley. Because the only thing they seem to have put across in this was that the door that they keep opening is the door to Bray's mind. It's the door to the personalities that lie within. Somebody's opened the door and now they're all free, which Bray considers freedom and control. He's found a balance between, this is how I take it anyway, he's found a balance to all the craziness. He's in charge by letting them run wild. But this was a really odd segment. It was just, they had a weather report and with Uncle Howdy, who just said, I am everyone. Bray did a weird news report thing with Ramping Rabbit in a shirt, which was very strange. And then there was a bit in the middle where they showed Bobby Lashley's promo saying, don't mock me, and Bray played lots of comedy sounds while Bobby was saying, don't mock me. You see, here's my problem with Bray Wyatt. Let's go down. Bray is creatively a wrestling genius. The stuff he comes up with when he has a filter is fantastic. I compare him to Vince Russo. People are going to shoot me for that, but I do. Vince Russo was a very creative mind in a very creative time, who, while he had the ceiling of Vince McMahon above his head, filtering out the ideas that were bad, Vince Russo came up with some good stuff. Bray Wyatt's the same. When there's a filter there, he comes up with some good stuff. It seems to me lately that the filter's been taken away and Bray's just been given free rein over his own storylines. And it's getting a bit confusing. The messages that used to be quite clear are now becoming more convoluted and hidden and juxtaposition and everything else. It's very strange. And then there's the large problem with Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt's character is much better than his wrestler. Bray is a phenomenal character. Like, you can't take it away from him. He's an amazing character. He always will be. He always has been. But his wrestling is decidedly average. When you can't have a good match at WrestleMania with Randy frickin' Orton, it's not Randy's fault. It's your fault. And all that spooky bollocks with the bugs on the mat and all that crap did not help the match. Ray is a decidedly average wrestler with an A-level creative mind. Until he improves in the ring, all of his matches will be a disappointment to the build. Which is why I'm hoping that the match with Bobby Lashley is not to push Bray Wyatt, but is to push Bobby Lashley. Because I want Bobby to destroy him. And I mean absolutely annihilate him, the way Brock's probably going to annihilate Omos. I am losing faith in Bray Wyatt week by week. The further this story goes, the further it goes off the rails, the less interested I am, especially when you have something as good as the Bloodline over here, and then you have this over here making very little sense and not directing fans in where they need to go. Then it doesn't work for me. And I think this has lost steam. It lost steam. LA Knight kept the last few going because of his fantastic mic work, but it's just not got it anymore for me. Anyway, it's not like. Anyway, you know what? I'm going to stop ranting about Bray because I'm not going to get anywhere if I keep complaining. They begged and pleaded for Bray to come back and completely fumble the whole thing. Yes, they did. It's like, I don't understand. He's so easy. Like, Bray Wyatt's so easy to write for. Like, I don't do it, but he would be so easy to write for. What you have in Bray Wyatt is Undertaker 2.0. That's what you do with him. You don't do all of this fucking spooky, crazy 3 personalities in 3 different bodies that turn out to be real people. And it's Bo Dallas, obviously. You create the Undertaker. You turn Bray's Eater of Worlds into the new Undertaker, the Lord of Darkness, the man who everyone is scared of. The Undertaker wasn't the best wrestler for most of his career. It was only in the later half of his career his in-ring work really took off because he wasn't as bound by the character and the gimmick later on in his year in the ring. If you bind Bray to his gimmick and limit what he does in the ring because of his gimmick, it will work. But if you're just letting him run overshot over his entire storyline and then do what he wants in the ring, it doesn't pay. It doesn't pay off. It doesn't deliver what it needs to deliver, and that's disappointing. It's not bliss. Please, God, do not. Yeah, it's probably going to be Liv Morgan. Unfortunately, David, I think it's going to be Liv Morgan. I don't like Liv Morgan anyway. So they can do what they want with it. Anything did improvement with Liv Morgan as far as I'm concerned. Bray should be the leader of a faction, not the leader of an faction. Yeah, I completely agree. Without a shadow of a doubt. Just give him a faction, have him direct these people and occasionally wrestle, where he becomes the final boss of this faction, whose aura is enough to terrify people. But after this very, very, very odd Firefly Funhouse segment, we went to another Bloodline segment with Jimmy. And Jimmy's backstage saying he'll be there. He'll be there. I know he'll be there. It'll be good. Be able to talk to face-to-face, man-to-man, handle this personally. And then Paul comes over looking, why is a sheet? It's phone. And he goes, just got text messages, not from the Tribal Chief. Roman Reigns will be here on Smackdown next week. Roman has messaged me He said, you handle your brother tonight, personally, but next week, Roman Reigns will handle your brother, personally. And the look on Jimmy's face, was priceless. The sheer terror and distraught and panic that he might not be able to sort things out tonight and then Roman would do it next week was palpable. Just chef's kiss. Jimmy's work tonight, fantastic. Just fantastic. I swear the boy's been to acting class because, it's so good. So good. Right, after this, we went to our fourth match, which was our last match of the night. Rey Mysterio versus Killer Cross, Karrion Kross. Nah. Like, it's a Karrion Kross match. Not even Rey Mysterio can get blood from a stone. It was all right. It was, one thing I will say, it was a very traditional Rey Mysterio match. It was Rey versus a monster. Karrion Kross did a lot of talking in this match, the same way Roman does to cover up from his lack of ring work with storytelling. Fortunately, Kross just isn't interesting when he wrestles, whereas Roman is interesting when he wrestles. So this was dull. But this entire match was simply there to set up more Dominic and Rey. So the match went on. It got to where it went. Kross hit a good spot where he launched Rey under the bottom rope and Rey hit the floor. That was entertaining. Scarlett went down posing. That was fun. But he got back in the ring. He set Kross up for the 619. He goes to hit the 619. Dominic appears from nowhere, grabs by his legs, drops him on the floor. Starts going, what are you going to do? Hit me. Come on. Hit me right there. And Rey won't hit him. Rey gets back in the ring. He walks straight into it. Cross hammer. And then cross jacket choke. Rey's out. Bye-bye. This does nothing for Kross, unless Kross didn't notice Dom. But it did a lot for the Dominic Rey Mysterio feud, because after this, we went to just Dom in the ring with Rey. Just telling him to hit him over and over and over again, questioning his manhood, telling him to do what you want, and shoving him, pie-facing him, doing whatever it was. By the end of it, Rey wouldn't hit him. He nearly did. He nearly hit him. But then he resisted, and he walked off. That was it. This is a good... It's more build for Rey eventually losing his top, slapping Dom, and it's setting up a match at WrestleMania. Next page notes. Last page notes. I have written main event, awesome segment. I don't need notes for this. I can go over there. Jimmy comes out to the ring, gets a good pop, comes in the ring, says, you know what? If you're not here, I know you're out there watching somewhere, so you need to listen to me. I will always be there for you because you're my brother. But I will always be there for the bloodline. And you need to make a decision. Use this as that word, but that was the implication. Jimmy continues talking. Just basically the connection between him and his brother, why we have a Sami Zayn problem, we have a Kevin Owens problem. You need to come, we need to get back together. People are constantly talking about cracks in the bloodline. We need to sort this out. We need to come together. We need to deal with these problems. As he's talking, Sami comes out of the crowd, hood on, gets in the ring. Jimmy, who, by the way, at this point had been emoting with his face beautifully. You could see how hurt he's supposed to be over what's going on with Jimmy. Sami gets in the ring. Sami gets a mic. Sami says, look, I'm not here to fight. I'm here to talk. I need to talk to you. And I can tell by the look in your eyes, you're going to let me talk. Sami basically turns around and he says, what you did at the Rumble hurt. Because you were my dog. We were dogs. Remember that? You had my back in the bloodline from day one. When Jey Uso didn't believe in me, you had my back. You made me the honorary Uso. If it isn't for me, isn't for you, there's no feeling Uso. And Jimmy has just stood there. Rage on his face, rage in his body, just holding himself back. Eventually just gets, Sami says, what you did at the Rumble hurt. Jimmy gets the microphone, just starts shouting at Sami to why it hurts. What hurts is betrayal. You had that chair. You pulled that trigger. You made the mistake. You tore all this apart. Don't you dare try and turn around and blame this on me, Sami. This is on you. You tore the family apart. And you know what family does? They don't betray each other. And Sami goes, you know what? No. You know what else family doesn't do? They don't make you prove your loyalty every single week. They don't question you every single step of the way. And then who shows up in the crowd? Jey. Just stood up in the crowd. And Jimmy and Sami didn't notice at first, then they notice. And when Sami goes to look up at Jey, Jimmy blasts him, starts beating him down. And then Jimmy goes to the corner, starts talking to Jason. Come on, man, come on. Get in here. You're my brother, get in here. And then he turns around, bang, Haluva kick from Sami Zayn. Jimmy goes down. Solo Sikoa runs out, chases Sami off. Sami and Jay exchange a very interesting look on Sami's way out of the arena. And that was it. That was the end of the show. That was Smackdown this week. Really good show. Yet again, thank you, WWE, for allowing the Sami Zayn storyline to coalesce naturally and continue, and not just saying that was it at Elimination Chamber. I'm glad that we are at least semi-listening to the fans, and we are carrying on with this story. That much of a plus. Shane and Addy, only negative of the show, even though it still made Shane look good. Opening tag match was fun. Imperium looks strong. They need to look strong. That was fantastic. Yeah, good show. Like, Cross and Ray was but can't win them all. And every Cross match is So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Nick the Geek. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Love you all. And remember, if you enjoy what we do here at Wrestle Legion, if you like the content we put out, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, share this video around. It really helps us out. It lets the YouTube algorithm know we exist. And come on, it's fun. So, ladies and gentlemen, love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please join the Legion. See you next week.